If you're going to be a nomad capitalist, there's going to be at least some element of nomadism or nomading in your plans, which means at least some amount of travel. So as we talk about your ultimate guide to being a nomad capitalist with children, I want to talk about how you travel with children and some special considerations that you will want to include in your plan. My name is Joshua Sheats, founder of Radical Personal Finance, here today for Nomad Capitalist, where Andrew Henderson and his team help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs legally go where you're treated best. Go to nomadcapitalist.com for more. We're going to talk about this in the context of planes, trains, and automobiles. And I want to share with you some things that affect your travel planning with children, things you will want to incorporate into your personal nomad capitalist plan. Let's begin with planes. Planes are undoubtedly convenient. They allow us to get from one place to another very quickly. But planes with children are often more difficult than planes with adults. And so when you are thinking about where and how you want to live, if children are part of your family, you want to give special consideration to how you can fly among your destinations if flying is going to be part of your lifestyle. Now, what do I mean? First thing you want to think about is things like scheduling. I travel the world currently as a full-time perpetual traveler with my wife and 4 young children. We fly on airplanes. But I pay much more careful attention to scheduling than I ever did before. If I was a single man traveling the world, I would usually often pick the cheapest ticket, right? Save my bucks for something else and get the cheapest ticket. And I don't mind flying at weird times. I don't mind flying in the middle of the night. I don't mind flying with a long layover. It's no big deal to me. I'll pull out my laptop, I'll do some work, I'll pull out a book, I'll read, I'll enjoy even a long layover. But with children, and especially with many children, all of those little peculiarities become more difficult. As a parent traveling with young children, I try very hard to fly during the better time of day. I don't want to fly in the middle of the night. Why? Well, my children get awakened in the middle of the night. If I go on an 11 p.m. flight and we're arriving at our destination at 1:30, they're going to be awakened on the airplane and they're going to be incoherent, right? Not able to understand what's happening, which means they're going to be crying, hard to quiet down, hard to shush, and that makes things miserable for all of the people around me. Middle of the night flying is best avoided, especially with young children. It's also really hard to deal with them and to help them when you get travel delays. Right? You arrive at your destination and your hotel room isn't ready for you. That's hard on children. It's hard for them to have a good attitude in those circumstances. Your flight is delayed by weather, and now you find yourself sitting in an airport at an extended period of time. It's just difficult. And so if you're going to be flying with children, and especially if you're setting up bases and you're going to have 2 homes or 3 homes or different places that you're moving between, I think you want to prioritize places with good travel schedules between them and, if possible, direct connections. The second flight when traveling with children is often the one I don't look forward to. I don't mind traveling on a direct flight, but the second flight or the third flight, the second and the third flight, those become difficult because on the second flight, you're usually not as rested and eager as you were. And so if I'm setting up bases and I know that regularly throughout the year, I'm going to be traveling among 2 or 3 different destinations, I'm going to choose the capital city. I'm going to choose the place with the direct flight. I'm going to make sure that there is a good flight schedule between those cities, and I'm not going to choose the one where I have to do a quick hour regional jet to get where I want to go. That means I'm going to be in Mexico City, not in San Miguel de Allende. It means I'm going to be in Miami, not in West Palm Beach. You figure out your cities, but I'm telling you, you're going to want to be in the bigger city where there's a direct connection to where you want to go, and especially that direct connection is at a good time. With regard to planes, you're also probably going to want to minimize the long flights. I have no fear or uncertainty about a 3-hour flight, a 5-hour flight. It becomes more difficult when you do transatlantic, but I don't mind transatlantic necessarily. But man, the 16-hour flight from Atlanta to Seoul, or from, you put in your route, those 14, 15, 16-hour flights, those become pretty difficult with children. It's not just the flight, remember. It's being there 2 hours before, 3 hours before. It's dealing with a delay in boarding, a delay in departure. It's dealing with a delay on arrival in immigration, a delay with your baggage, a delay at the hotel. Those long trips are not awesome with children. And so you'll want to think about that carefully before committing yourself to a lot of those. Jet lag is very difficult with children. As an adult, you learn how to deal with jet lag. But when you've got a whole family that's dealing with jet lag, it kind of ruins several days of productivity. And so if I've got children and I'm trying to work, I don't want to lose a week of readjusting my whole family to jet lag if I can avoid it. And so I'm going to be thoughtful about where I set up my bases. I would be remiss if I didn't mention cost. As the father of 4 children, I have discovered that many things are not multiplied. Many costs are not multiplied with children. It doesn't cost me 6 times as much to rent a house that fits my family as it would to rent a house that just fit me. It's not 6 times as much. But with things like airplane tickets, it is. And so if you're choosing a place to set up a base or multiple bases, and you know you're going to be regularly flying to another place, you'll want to be thoughtful about how much those airplane tickets are going to cost. Now, perhaps if you're an 8-figure entrepreneur, perhaps this is immaterial to you. But there are a lot of us who may not be 8-figure entrepreneurs. Rather, we're trying to use the principles of nomad capitalism in an intelligent way. And I'm telling you, if it's going to cost you $8,000 to fly home for Christmas, and it's going to be a 12-hour flight and $8,000 and travel delays, that might be unsupportable for you, because the cost, the frustration, the difficulty of just going for a week, it might be smarter for you to choose a destination that's not $8,000. Choose the destination that'll be a total of $2,000, and choose the destination where it's 4 hours of travel instead of 12. Because you'll want to make sure those relationships with family members are still strong. And so just be thoughtful about plane travel. Now, you can enhance this. We get a lot of mileage out of things like lounge access. So make sure that you have a premium credit card or a priority pass membership, or you're flying business class or something that gets you lounge access. That'll make your travels much more comfortable. Obviously, upgrading flights is great if you can do that. But be thoughtful, because plane travel with children, while very doable, is not awesome. It's not something that most parents look forward to. Now, I'm going to skip over trains fairly quickly. Trains, yeah, they're pretty cool opportunities. But here's what's interesting about even things like trains. We'll go quickly to automobiles, but one of the things that you find when traveling with children is many times your cost structure changes dramatically. If I go somewhere with my wife and our 4 children, and I have to buy 6 train tickets, I will usually find that it's cheaper for me to rent a car or to hire a private bus or a private van than it is for me to buy 6 train tickets. The world of trains and public transportation is usually positioned for single people traveling, and it's great and cost effective for them. But if you have a large family, you'll often find that things like trains just don't play a role anymore, because it doesn't make sense. Why not have your own private automobile, or why not have your own private driver if you can do that for cheaper than you can with your train tickets? Now let's move on to automobiles. The first comment I would make on automobiles, of moving your family via automobiles, is that if you have children, you will almost certainly want to have a car. Even the most ardent, I don't want a car people often find their opinions changing when they have children. A good friend of mine, he had never owned a car his entire lifetime. He was in his mid-40s, had never owned a car, had always wanted to live a car-free lifestyle. He was a wealthy businessman, investor, sold his company, was semi-retired. He got married. He and his wife had 2 children. And I spoke to him recently, and he was talking about his car. I said, "You bought a car?" He said, "Yeah, I mean, it just makes everything better." And you'll find that probably with children as well, is that when you have a car with children, everything is simpler. Now let me explain why that is so you can understand. First, there are some basic logistics of traveling with children, things like car seats. Much of the time, right, as a parent, you're concerned about your child's safety. And while, of course, you're going to go and ride a subway without a car seat, when you're dealing with other forms of transportation, you often are concerned about it. You have a baby, and there are laws in many places where your baby has to be properly restrained in an appropriate car seat. And so you might be traveling with an infant car seat. That's annoying when you're constantly moving in one taxi and out the other. We found some solutions that have simplified it. We travel with a booster seat that's a little portable booster seat made by made by a company that makes portable booster seats. We also travel with a vest that that goes with our younger child. It's made by a company called Whiz Rider. And these things allow us to travel with these portable seats. But if you don't have them, if you're lugging a big car seat or a big stroller around, it's just a hassle. On the topic of the stroller, right? The stroller will dramatically expand your opportunities, but man, is it a hassle to take a stroller in a taxi and on a train and whatnot. If you have a private automobile, you can leave the stroller in the trunk, you can leave the car seat strapped in. Everything is simpler and easier. And so that's one logistical reason. Another logistical reason is that when you have a car, you can split up your trips and travels in convenient ways. You can go the amount of time. Maybe you've got a 6-hour trip. Well, you can go as far as you want, then you can stop at a park and play, give your kids a break. When you have your own car, you can allow your children to continue sleeping when they fall asleep in the car. When you're in a taxi and they fall asleep and you're in a long taxi ride and then you get there, you have to wake them up. When it's your own car, you can leave them in their car seat, put the windows down, park under a shade, you read a book while your child finishes his nap. I promise you, like, you're going to want a car. And so this adds in a couple of things. Yes, there's cost, but more importantly is, can I own a car in this particular destination? And is this the kind of destination where owning a car is actually something that makes sense? There are lots of parents living in downtown New York City who do own cars, but it's a lot bigger of a hassle to own a car in New York City, downtown Manhattan, than it is in Dallas, Texas. And so the lifestyle of being a parent with children is more difficult in Manhattan than it is outside in some other place in the suburbs or in a different city entirely. You also then have to think about, can I legally buy and operate a vehicle in this particular place? Yes, if you have a residence permit in a certain location, then certainly, usually you can purchase a car and insure the car, register it, etc. But can you do it as a tourist? Lots of us like spending time in places as tourists because that provides a little bit more freedom. Usually a country treats tourists within its borders better than it treats residents or citizens, at least with regard to personal freedom. So can you operate a vehicle there as a tourist? What are the laws on that? What does it take to register the vehicle there? Cars often come with substantial cost in certain countries where they have major taxes to try to minimize the number of vehicles on the road. And so you want to be thoughtful about those factors. The final subset of cars that I would point out would be weird cars like RVs, motorhomes, caravans, and by extension, perhaps boats. These are awesome ways to travel with children. Now, most people who are into this kind of lifestyle already know that. I haven't heard of Andrew buying an RV. That's not really, doesn't seem to be his style of travel, but there are a lot of us who love it. And so think about this, because if you do want to incorporate some form of RV travel or sailboat travel, this works awesome with children. But it does add some other planning considerations. So I put that in your head because you can live an international lifestyle with these tools, but you'll want to be thoughtful about it. Having children means you need to think about transportation. And what I have learned is that at this stage of my life, I'm going to prioritize living in a capital city or a city with excellent air connection rather than an out-of-the-way place. Even if it costs me more, it's worth it. I'm going to prioritize living in a place that has direct flights to the places that I want to be. I don't want to go on a 3-leg trip that's going to be 30 hours of traveling. And then I'm going to prioritize being in a place where I can own and operate a car because it's worth the lifestyle increase for me as a parent. Consider these things as you build your Nomad Capitalist plan. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below if I missed anything. If there's anything you want to add to what I said as an experienced parent to those who don't have children, of things they're going to want to know, put those in the comments down below.
Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.